Hello everybody, welcome to the PitBox. I've got my fan again with me, pretty scorching down here in South Africa. What a week for the world of Formula One. Gee whiz, and a whole lot of other things as well. Listen, if you're in the South Africa area, specifically in Gauteng, Johannesburg, Pretoria area, tomorrow, Passion for Speed at Swartkops Raceway, which should be excellent. Some classic racing, also the G&H transport supercars, the Lamborghini Hurricanes, etc., Aston Martins, McLarens. It's going to be great fun. So do yourself a favor, try and get out there. For those in Australia, the Bathurst 12-hour gets underway in a few hours from now. So that should be great fun to watch as well. Got a couple of South Africans in there as well, including Calvin van der Linde. So good luck. And the last time I saw, he was 4th fastest in free practice 4. So looking good. Woo! Has there been news or what? Aston Martin. Yep, the big news came out. It had been mulled around for quite a while. And all of a sudden, Lawrence Stroll, the father of Lance Stroll, who recently bought the Racing Point team, has bought a 16.7% share into Aston Martin Lagonda. It is called Aston Martin Lagonda. They've raised a whole bunch of money. They paid about 187 million pounds for the deal. And it's going to see that Lawrence Stroll will take over as the chairman of Aston Martin as soon as this deal is concluded. What does it mean for Formula One? So here are a couple of things. Red Bull at the moment are known as Aston Martin Red Bull, even though they use a Honda engine. I know it's very confusing, but just bear with me. Their deal with Aston Martin will continue for this year, okay, the sponsorship deal. It's valued at about $20 million, apparently. Thereafterwards, next year, 2021, the Sport Pesa Racing Point team will be known as Aston Martin Racing Point and be official Aston Martin racing team, which I think is glorious for the world of Formula One. It is a 4-year deal with the possibility to extend it for 10 years. Aston Martin will be getting technical advice from the Formula One team, and they'll be sharing it vice versa for at least the next 10 years. So I think this is a solid deal for Aston Martin and their future. Okay, so Formula One wise, that's pretty good. Now, I sit there and go, hold on a second. Adrian Newey has been working on this hypercar, the Valkyrie, together with Aston Martin. Where does that now leave them? So there's a separate deal that has been put in place where Red Bull will continue together with Adrian Newey and Aston Martin to complete the hypercar of Valkyrie until the end of delivery of that car. Does it mean that Adrian Newey's potential, I don't know, employment could change? Could Lawrence Stroll dangle a big carrot and say, hey, listen, come along to Racing Point? Anything can happen. All of a sudden, it's a works team. Pedigree, bit of a problem. Now, Lawrence Stroll, and there's been rumors that he was talking with Toto Wolff and considering perhaps buying the Mercedes team because Mercedes perhaps going to be pulling out of Formula One, and I'll get to that in a second. So Aston Martin road cars, most of them are using, or they have a shared platform with Mercedes-Benz. Okay, if you didn't know that. So an Aston Martin basically has a Mercedes-Benz, sorry about that, a little bit of fluff flying around here. Basically has a Mercedes-Benz engine in the back of it. So it means that the relationship's going to get even stronger because now you've got this power and this money behind Lawrence Stroll. And Lawrence Stroll is a very successful businessman. He knows about luxury products. He knows about building brands. So you've got to believe that this man's going to be able to do what he wants. There are one or two questions that I do want to ask about this deal, and that is what is going to happen to them when it comes to GT racing. For example, Le Mans, Intercontinental GT racing, World Endurance cars, because they've pulled out of DTM. DTM also extremely expensive sport to go and run, and I think maybe they've done the right thing, get out of DTM. I'm just hoping now they're going to continue with World Endurance cars and of course Le Mans and those kind of things, because I don't think Aston Martin has the pedigree, even though it's 106 years old, to rely on selling customer road cars just off the back of perhaps some Formula One success. Long gone are the days of win on Sunday, sell cars on Monday. It's a great philosophy, but it's sort of changed. Ferrari is basically the only one who sits there and relies heavily on just their Formula One program, even though they do race in endurance cars, etc. So Aston Martin got a long road to travel, but I think they look a lot more safe at this stage.
Oh wow, that is just so cool. That's a 312 T4.
Now, before I talk about what's happening at Mercedes and a whole lot of other things, predictions and where we are, and let's just spend a moment and congratulate and wish Jody Scheckter a very happy 70th birthday. It happened 2 days ago, Jody, and a very, very happy birthday from all of us here in your country of birth, South Africa. Jody Scheckter, the 1979 Formula One world champion, the only world champion South Africa has ever had, and a wonderful man. And I can tell you, he is going to be in South Africa again very soon. Just watch this space. Okay, back to more modern day Formula One. What is going on with Mercedes? There are some crazy stories that are going out that on the 12th of February, Mercedes board are having a huge meeting to discuss their future plans in Formula One. Now, you've got to try and not misread this, because it doesn't necessarily say that Mercedes are going to withdraw from Formula One. They may withdraw from Formula One as a manufacturer team, but they may stay in Formula One as an engine or power unit supplier. So just don't get too confused. But there is a lot of talk that they might be considering withdrawing from Formula One as a team. We'll find out. Apparently this meeting is going to take place on the 12th of February. The big CEO of Mercedes has come out and denied all of this and said, no, we are not leaving Formula One. There's a Concord agreement, which I spoke about in episode 1. So, where is Mercedes at present? They have, however, Mercedes come out and said that they want to try and save about $1 billion in the next 2 years. Okay, so that means they spend a tremendous amount of money on the world of Formula One. And we know that they are very, very pro their Formula E program as well. And they're expecting to do very well. On the road car side as well, of course, going into hybrids, looking at electric vehicles, you've got to know that that is also going to be a progression for them as well. So where do they save money? I suppose withdrawing from Formula One will save them, let's say, $350, $700 million over 2 years, but they'll spend it $350 this year, so they'll only save $350 million next year, 2021. So where are they going to save the rest of the money? Well, they could save maybe another $100 million by just not paying Lewis's contract, because apparently he's asking for so much money and everyone's saying there's no chance we're going to pay that money. The only team that maybe would consider paying that kind of money would be Ferrari. We'll have to wait and see. But where there's smoke, there's fire. So let's wait and see what Mercedes come out. I hope that they are committed to Formula One as a manufacturer and as a team for the foreseeable future. I think it's very, very important for the sport as well. That's the look at Mercedes. Then other news that has just come out as well. Pat Fry, who's had a brilliant career in Formula One, spent some time with McLaren just recently. He had a good tenure at the Ferrari team as well. He will start his official position at Renault on the 5th of February this year. I think it's a great coup for Renault. I really have a tremendous amount of respect for Pat Fry. Looking forward to, say it cautiously, but positive and strong season from Renault this year. Great news, all of the teams have announced that they are going to be releasing their cars. Just a few minutes ago, Williams have announced that they will be launching their car on the 17th of February of this year. They're the last team to announce, but theirs is going to be a digital only release, so it'll, not going to be any fanfare. Not that the Formula One teams do any fanfare like they used to do in the past. I mean, who can remember McLaren closing off Spain when they signed Alonso, and those were the days. But nowadays they're much more low-key affairs. So 11 days from now, starting on the 11th of February up until the 19th, when testing starts, Two of the teams will launch on the morning of testing in Barcelona as well. So that's very good news. Everywhere I read, people are predicting things for 2020. I mean, it's amazing. You know, I've heard things like Ferrari are going to win, Leclerc's going to be the world champion, Max Verstappen this. It's just crazy. How can you predict at this stage of the season? I have two things that I'm pretty certain of. One, I believe Lewis Hamilton will overtake Michael Schumacher with the most victories in Formula One during the course of 2020. I think he's only got 7 to go or 6 to go. The other one is not a prediction. It's just a team that I say, this is the team that I would watch very much this year, Red Bull. I think there's something very, very special there. And I think Honda have found some magic as well. So, I thought what I'd do is let's have a look at some of the pairings in Formula One that are going to be quite interesting to watch. I'm going to go through 5 of the pairings out of the 10 teams. Daniel Ricciardo versus Esteban Ocon. Daniel Ricciardo knows he's got a big shot of maybe going to Ferrari in 2021 if Vettel doesn't really perform. That's where the money's talking at the moment. Esteban Ocon, after a year out and touted to take over from Valtteri Bottas, has now been shifted and moved into Renault. He has to prove himself, Esteban Ocon. He's raced in Formula One. We know that he's good pedigree, but he's going to have to be on the pace of Daniel Ricciardo, if not faster, if he wants a chance of taking Bottas' place at Mercedes. After all, he is managed by Toto Wolff, but Renault will be also very reluctant to let him go if he does perform. So I think that is going to be a great pairing. I think they're really going to push each other, and I think that's what Ricciardo needs. He had it with Vettel. You know, when Vettel pushed him, then all of a sudden he pushed back and eventually got the better of him. With Hülkenberg pushed him for a while, and then it was just a question of, I know I can go faster, so just went a little bit faster and didn't really, I think, achieve the potential that Daniel Ricciardo could have with Renault last season. Ocon up against it, but I think this kid is good. Then we look at George Russell and Nicholas Latifi, of course, the new driver into Formula One. He joins the Williams team up against George Russell. Now, George Russell, we know as a racing driver, has got great pedigree. He just had a bum car last year. The only problem was George Russell was not challenged at all when it came to qualifying by Robert Kubica. So we don't really know how fast he could have gone in that car had there been a little bit more pressure. Is Nicholas Latifi the guy to do it? I certainly hope so for Williams' position, because otherwise George Russell is just going to do whatever he has to do to ensure that he beats his teammate. That's how racing goes. But George Russell also has a point to prove. He's a Formula 2 champion. He's got massive pedigree, and he also wants to be in a frontline team like Mercedes, and his chance is there to show it this year and perhaps kick out a guy like Valtteri Bottas, all depending on what Bottas does. But Bottas, we'll talk about it another one. Next pairing that I want to look at, Perez and Stroll. Sergio Perez, now with this news of Aston Martin, he does have a long-term contract with Racing Point, but he has come out and said he's sick and tired of playing in the midfield. Now he's got a chance to be part of a factory team, Aston Martin, from 2021. So he's got to go out there and prove his worth and ensure that he's better than Lance Stroll. Perez can be a great qualifier and he's a good racer, but sometimes is a little bit unpredictable. Lance Stroll on the other side, and I know people give him a tremendous amount of flack, has battled over the one-lap qualifying so far in his career. But don't forget, with Williams, he was one of the youngest people ever to get a podium at Baku in Azerbaijan. The other thing is, if you watched his racing acumen during 2019, this guy is class. I'm not saying it because all of a sudden I want Lance Stroll to be my best friend. Lance Stroll is not nearly as rubbish as a lot of people think. The guy can race, and in racing conditions, he's excellent. If he can get his one-lap qualifying pace up to scratch, you're going to see a different kind of Lance Stroll. So mark my words on that one. The other one I want to look at is Antonio Giovinazzi and Kimi Räikkönen. I spoke a little bit about it last episode. But Giovinazzi has to go out there and demolish Kimi Räikkönen if he wants to have a chance of staying in Formula One. If he does not beat Kimi consistently, 22 races, 15 out of the races, you can't see Giovinazzi having much of a future. Kimi, they've said you can stay as long as you want. Kimi, if he finds a car that works for him, and Alfa Romeo building the car from zero again, if that car sort of works and Kimi's comfortable in it, Kimi will go out there and be the Kimi that we know. He'll be fast, he'll be fluid, and he will bring home points. And that's what a team like Alfa Romeo need when it comes to Formula One. Giovinazzi has it all to do. If he doesn't beat Kimi consistently, he will not be in Formula One in 2021. The last ones that I want to look at are the two Haas drivers. And of course, that's Magnussen and Grosjean. Both of them, you've got to believe, are in waiting to perhaps lose their Formula One careers, or perhaps get moved up somewhere along the line. Kevin Magnussen, I think, can be a fantastic racing driver. He's shown what he can do in difficult situations, and all of a sudden can pull things out of the bag. So Haas have to give them a decent car. The car really wasn't up to scratch last year, and they did the best that they could, let's be honest. Romain Grosjean, unfortunately, in my opinion, just blows too hot and too cold. The guy can be as fast as Lewis Hamilton on a day, but then he can be as slow as Robert Kubica on a day. Complains too much, car's not working, all of a sudden Romain Grosjean loses his pip. And you can't have that in Formula One. No matter how difficult the situation is, you have to be able to find ways around it. The perfect exponent of that, in my opinion, was Michael Schumacher. Schumacher, you could give him a car which was rattling, half a wheel was coming off, and Schumacher would find a way of driving around it and find a way of getting his engineers to change one or two things in order to make it easier. Not perfect, just easier. Grosjean has to implement that this year, otherwise he's going to be out of Formula One. Oh, okay, here's exciting. Do you want to hear 3 of the engines? Yep, 3 out of the 4. McLaren, which is a Renault, Ferrari, which is a Ferrari, and Mercedes is a Mercedes. Here goes. Wow, is it just me, or do they sound louder? Especially the Renault. Wow, it sounds very, very cool. Cannot wait to have them fired up Australia this year, and of course testing before that as well. All right, a few more points. Chinese Formula One Grand Prix, we have this devastating coronavirus that is attacked the Chinese country and, of course, spreading all over the world as well. They're trying to contain it. Over 200 people are dead, 9,000 people infected with it as well. And it has now come out from the World Health Organization as being a huge, huge problem. The Chinese Grand Prix is over the 17th of weekend of the 17th of April. So we've got 2.5 months until the Chinese Grand Prix. But let's be honest, if somebody had to say to you right now, listen, hey, why don't you come to China with me? What are the chances of you going? I would say just about zero. 2.5 months time from now, depending on where this containment is within this process with the Chinese people, and let's hope they do contain it, otherwise we're going to have devastating deaths all over the world. Would you, as a Formula One team, you've got your 2 drivers, all of your personnel, let's say it's a complement of 70 or 60 to 100 people, would you risk taking them to China, going and racing under the pretense that everything is okay, and then from there taking that 100 people and then going to 18 other races around the world? As a team, I wouldn't. So unless I have 100%, not 99%, 100% containment of this disease, I do not believe that Formula One will go to China in April of this year. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. Okay, final 2 points. The Baron Formula One PitBox live. For the last 2 years, I've been hosting events at the Baron in Fourways, which is in Johannesburg, South Africa. So if you're watching from anywhere in the world and you want to come along, book a flight. We don't have the virus. Okay. We have some load shedding, by the way, which means that the power goes out, but we'll make sure that that doesn't affect us. So we had the live events at the Baron. I'm going to be doing 12 races this year. The first one is going to be the Zandvoort Dutch Grand Prix, which is going to be amazing. That is on the 3rd of May. I'll be posting up the schedule and what's going to be happening at the Baron, but it is going to be back this year. Plus, we're going to have racing simulators. We've got new bulbs in projectors. We've got a new PA system. We've got a whole lot of new things that are going to be part of the events as well. Lots of prizes as well. So I will give you more details as and when they come. And finally, launched last year, just before the end of the year, well, actually at the last Grand Prix, I'm taking you. Come along with me. We've only got about 20 spaces left. Okay, so it is a limited field. The Singapore Grand Prix in September. And of course, don't worry, we also are watching to see what happens with coronavirus. So we're not, we're not taking it lightly. But the Singapore Grand Prix with me, together with my traveling companion, Neil McAlpine, we want you to come and join us to experience Formula One at a magnificent facility. Yes, it's a street race, but it's under lights. It's in Singapore, and it is a beautiful, beautiful place. So here's a poster that you can have a look at with all of the details. And underneath, I will put an email address where you can get in touch if you want to book yourself on the trip. As I mentioned, there are limited numbers. So get in there before it all goes. That is the world of Formula One. Next week, I was hoping to announce it on Monday, but it seems as though it's been postponed until Thursday next week. There is a big announcement about something that's going to be happening in South Africa. Very, very exciting stuff. So make sure you follow all of my channels, whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, Mixcloud, SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, F1 Sasha. All of the information will be there. And of course, I will have more Formula One news before the announcement next Thursday. So make sure you keep watching. Thanks for your time. Take care. Ciao, ciao. Follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at F1 Sasha.